really has to be the one to make the big plays for them because he's traditionally been in the carry role, but again has been sort of similar in that he hasn't really stood out on most of the teams he's been on, but needs to do so within this Liberation X lineup, needs to be one of the big names for this team.
Sure. We'll see if that's going to happen here today. We are in the draft for game number 1 here between Nova Esports and Liberation X. It's going to be Kinetic and Scarf banned away, as well as Anchor and Baron. So Baron and Scarf being banned away in one series, definitely an interesting one, but it is going to be a Churnworker first pick. So already this is kind of a topsy-turvy draft. Some interesting lock-ins here.
Yeah, I mean, now we'll see Finn is going to be hovered. We get Churnwalker and Finn as the first 2 picks. Again, just kind of shows where these teams are focusing their priority. And we've seen a lot of these top-level teams putting emphasis on the captain roles and then rounding things out around that.
Yeah, I mean, we still have Kensei, we still have Reza available. Reza is now going to be hovered. It would be incredibly appropriate if Demon plays Reza. That would just be so nice. But well, I'm curious to see what Nova are going to lock in here. Because when you think of starting all over, you think of things like Celeste, for example. Excellent Celeste player. But honestly, I could name pretty much any carry hero, and you would be like, yeah, starting all over is really good at that. So I'm curious where they go. Again, we're going to, like you said before, sticking to pretty safe picks here. Grumpjaw kind of pretty much a utility pick at the moment, and Tony just pretty much the best jungler.
Yeah, Tony is just going to be universally picked up early in draft. Samuel being added to the side of Liberation X, just getting that durability up. You know, obviously you have a lot of dive potential with the Reza. The Samuel now brings in that long sustained fighting potential. So 2 very different play styles with these 2 heroes. It'll be interesting to see if they try and lean more into one of those 2 play styles or not. They're going to grab the glaive, so this kind of leads a little bit more towards the Reza style of going in aggressively, picking out one target and taking them off the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Glaive we've seen a little bit today, and we saw Tyra's playing it over in Europe and played it to tremendous effect. Obviously that was queso, so you anticipate that every pick they go with, if you win 2-0 cleanly, the picks are going to look good at the end of the day. But
Varya,
definitely a playmaker. Varya, we've seen sneaking, it's kind of on the fringe of the meta, right? It's this mid lane pick that can be incredibly strong, but some players aren't comfortable playing it, and Celeste has just been a higher priority pick.
I think the reason the Varya comes out here is because they have the glaive, the Reza, and the Finn. You need some way to get out of a fight if you get forced into one that you don't want to be a part of, and Celeste doesn't have that option, whereas the Varya obviously can use that dash to get out of a sticky situation. So it makes a lot of sense to me that they would grab someone that has that extra mobility as opposed to the more standard laner of the Celeste.
Rona's going to be locked in. I love Rona, but most importantly, Rona, when we've seen it in the preseason and the regular season, it's dominated. I don't know why Rona's such a fringe pick, so rare to see.
She got a pretty heavy nerf, you know, between the preseason and the VPL Summer Open that really kind of pushed a lot of people away from her. She got a small buff, but it wasn't a major buff. I think the big concern a lot of people have is that you have to change the way you play as Rona now. It used to be you just go in, you get your ult, and you just sit there spinning in the middle of a team fight for days. You don't get the same level of the rage from the ultimate anymore. So now it's a very different playstyle. You're much more basic attack focused on the Rona, or just using the utility of the Into the Fray to create those slow fields against the opponents than you are just being that spinning top in the middle of a team fight they have to deal with.
I still think that you can take over a game.
Oh, I absolutely, I love the Rona pick.
You can
I really want, I've been wanting to see Rona for actually a while now.
It's about time that we did say it's time to jump on into this one. Liberation X versus Nova. This is the matchup you've all been waiting for. Let's see if Nova can live up to the hype. So I'm going to pass it over to Excandrel and Flash X.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we are into our final series of North America and our final series of Vainglory for the night. And it is going to be Nova versus Liberation X. A pretty hype matchup in terms of names. Delphi going in very early here. Another sort of Clown Fiesta level 1. But it's going to just taper off a little bit. Delphi forced to use his flask very early in this engage.
Yeah, definitely some more early game aggression that we haven't really seen out of North America. Not going to be any kills on the end of it, though. But two super well-known teams, both for different things. Liberation X, again, your first North American Autumn Season champions way back in 2015, 2016. It was a long time ago, but they have been around the block for sure. We've not seen them in competitive play in quite some time. I like their draft, though, and they're getting involved early.
Ooh, they're going to get the kill there. First blood on to Edial. And actually starting all over here. Ooh, the lightning is going to slap down Status, who unfortunately didn't have, or Status. I say Status because I'm British, but it should be Status, right? And that's the American way of saying it. But regardless, that's going to be a kill going over to Starting. And Starting, known as one of the most mechanically gifted players that Vainglory has seen. And he's on Varia, so you can have good use of those mechanics this game.
Starting when he is on his game, he's an absolute monster. Should be really interesting to see what him and Truth are able to accomplish. Definitely great friends. They are a very, very dynamic duo when they're feeling themselves and they're in synergy. Potentially even the strongest duo together in all of Vainglory.
Yeah, Truth when he's on his game. By the way, Truth is Vox this game. The both of them just very young players, but very, very talented as well. And it looks like they are on two sort of hyper carry-esque carries in this situation too. I'm looking forward to this game just because you've got the Swollest team in VG going up against potentially one of the, you know, sort of the more mechanically gifted teams in Vainglory as well. With
the least Swole.
Yeah, the least, I suppose so, but I don't know. I mean, I don't know what every single one of these players look like. So I just obviously know that Starting and Truth ain't going to be Swole compared to pretty much everybody on the Liberation X roster. Have you seen Status recently? The guy's a monster.
He's huge. He's huge. He definitely fills out his jersey, that's for sure. But Status also on this Rona, not a pick that we have seen very often, but a pick that you can be very aggressive on. And he's looking to take down Edial on Tony up in the top lane.
Oh, he's diving here, diving hard. I think he's going to go down. Yeah, pop the flask a little bit too late in that situation. Maybe wouldn't have made a difference anyway. And that'll be a 1-for-1 trade. Do you know why we don't see Rona flash? Do you know why?
I think that really because there's just so much crowd control in 5v5. I actually think that it's going to be quite the uphill battle for Status with the Tony, with the Grumpjaw, with the Churnwalker. Both Vox and Varia are quite mobile as far as backline DPS style carries go. So I think it's going to be tough for Status. I think he's going to have he needs to have a very strong early game if he wants to be successful throughout the course of this series. But Rona, because we haven't seen too much of it, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how it plays out. But if anyone can do it, Status is Rona, a thing of legends. So we'll have to wait and see how it goes.
I love how you answered that properly, because I was about to say it's because she's trash. But but thanks for answering it properly, actually.
Oh,
A little bit of a miscommunication between Sam and Status there. Sam with a really good afterburn onto Edial, but Status was more interested in taking that healing Treant away. And again, they're going to continue that pressure in the top lane. Looks like there's a bit of over-aggression from Eco and Starting in the mid lane. And Status is making his way down. No vision there for Starting and Eco, so he's just looking for his opportunity to strike.
Yeah, definitely waiting is right. Status going in on a Starting and Eco. Going low. Exhale, definitely one of these players that has been around as well. Really well known for his Celeste back in the day. Samuel, though, definitely the powerhouse mid laner at the moment. If he is able to position well and his brothers are able to position in front of him, he could potentially be a huge force in taking down Nova, which would be quite the upset and quite the accomplishment. But Liberation X, definitely known for some of the biggest upsets back in their day.
I want to see it because this would be, I think, whilst the names themselves lend to it being obviously an even matchup for a lot of people, it would be an upset. I think Nova probably on paper are considered the better team just as of current state. But like you said, Liberation X can always pull something out the bag. Never count these guys out. Very, very good unit. They work really well as a team together. And obviously that's really important in 5v5 scenarios. Demon, they had vision there. Was he face checking to just bait for Status? I guess that was the reason, as Eco now backs off on that Clown Walker.
I think that's a probably good inference, just kind of making Eco think that, you know, he didn't have the vision there. Obviously, if you were to have basic attacked them, Eco could have potentially put down a counter cam. Demon probably wanted to try and maintain his vision control while he had it. Ghost Wing Online, though, Liberation X, to my knowledge, doesn't have any competitive experience in 5 versus 5. So if there's really room for Nova to flex as far as their experience goes, it would definitely be this game. Starting all over, his life ended, just absolutely obliterated. Great patience out of the side of Libex right there.
And it was the long bait. It was making the team of the Nova think that there was no vision around that blue side because Demon face checked that Churnwalker, so he just thought there must be no vision there. And starting got baited into sitting in that position. A great execution blow by the team from Liberation X. And whilst this has all been good for them, and whilst the kills are even, the gold lead has been ticking up for Nova. They are 2,000 gold in the lead right now, Flash.
Yeah, definitely the slow, methodical play. The kills are even. Nova taking the lead as far as objectives go. They took down that first turret. Ghost Wing still online. Not really any opportunities for either of these teams. And I actually don't even think either of these teams have great compositions for taking Ghost Wing super early. There's no high DPS heroes. They all take a little bit longer to come online. And they're really just a lot more sustained in the Vox, in the Varia, kiting back and forth. Eco, though, on this Churnwalker, going to look to get chained up before this fight starts.
Yeah, Eco has got that level 6. Amato does not. Starting actually uses that ultimate, cancels the animation with his B, and now they're looking for that fight. Mato overextended. There's the ultimate coming out, and finally Grumpjaw, great afterburn onto Delphi. Delphi has to spit Status out, but spits him right into his killing range, and Status now churns that ultimate. In the meantime, though, Truth has gone man mode, dives in onto the glaive and gets the kill there. Right now it is 2-0 for Nova. Liberation X might not be able to contest this Ghost Wing if that is what Nova are going to go for.
Yeah, even though Truth on this Vox went really low at the start of the fight, the Serpent's Mask and update 3.6 is so strong, definitely shaping to be really the core meta item on a lot of these weapon power heroes. Definitely enabled him to sustain regen quite a bit throughout this fight. Nova gonna go ahead, pick up the first Ghost Wing of the game. Now they need to use this buff to their advantage and continue to extend their lead.
Delphi takes away those doubles, and he does back out here. Has got some cooldown reduction with the Storm Crown and another chronograph working towards the Aftershock, so he's going to have that A on a very low cooldown, increasing his mobility. And yeah, you're right, Serpent's Mask Vox. It is kind of the standard build, which is why I was surprised in my last series to see Vox is going for Poison Shiv. Now, Poison Shiv is obviously necessary when going up against lots of heals, but because of, like you said, the addition of Spellfire, it's not a must-have item like it was on 3v3. Like in 3v3, if there was any heals, it just was a must-have item because there was no CP equivalent. But there is a CP equivalent now, meaning that you can be a bit more varied. And the fact that Poison Shiv is kind of trash. Sam gets destroyed, blown up left, right, and center. Status now stuck in no man's land, and this should be cleanup squad coming through. He can jump over the wall, but Delphi's ready for it. Yep, he is, and he is going to follow up onto Status.
Good boots by Eco. Make sure Status not getting out of there. Rona, definitely showing why she doesn't quite have a place in this meta. Status playing against ranked Q players, not the same as playing against Nova. Nova knows exactly how to execute. Ediol going to be stealing away this weapon power buff. Going to be something that, you know, Status probably wishes he could have back, but nothing you could do about it at this point. Nova definitely just flexing up in this top lane, going straight onto the turret, even though it has a barrier. And Liberation X on the back foot.
Yeah, and right now, this is Nova flexing, like you said. They're going to go aggressive. That's going to be a kill onto Sam, and Liberation X now are clamoring in their jungle to try and head towards that top lane where another turret goes down. Right now, a 4 versus 5. Well, no, 4 versus 4 because they got the kill. There's the ultimate coming up from starting. Doesn't cancel the animation, though, and this is going to start chunking down. The slows work. Massive Churnwalker ultimate, and that's going to be the Samuel going down very quickly. Starting now, kites away from Status, who is absolutely melting through Eco, but no one is focusing starting on this Varia, and she is starting to output insane damage in this fight. Jumps forward, starting, lands the lightning bolt like Zeus, and Mato, one more basic attack will go down. Sam walks to his death. I think he was hoping to get some cleanup kills here. We'll get one, but unfortunately, the ace comes through, and in the meantime, Truth, on the bottom side of the map, is just going to take another turret.
Sam on Glaive basically died twice in that series. He died once just before it started, went back, and he did pick up a kill, but dying on the backside of it as well. Meanwhile, Truth on this Vox in the back lane wasn't a part of any of that whatsoever. He's going to get a turret for himself, and being uncontested, sitting at 4-0-1, absolutely commanding lead as far as CS goes. He has got to be feeling really good about that one.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely no kidding. Status is on 23. Sam's on 37, though, I suppose, but then you look at Edial, and he's on 52. I mean, this is just a massive CS lead right now. Main portion of that gold is going to be landing in CS, I think, at this point, for as well as turrets for Nova. Also, you got to point out that if you were to pick two carries that Rona does awfully against, I would say Varia and Vox are two carries high up on that list. Too much mobility for these carries for Rona to chase, and once she's used that gap closer, she really doesn't have much else in the tank to chase down these highly mobile carries.
Couldn't agree with you more, and I actually think Churnwalker is one of the best captains for playing against Rona, being able to stun her when she dives in, pull her back, pull her off of, you know, the enemies that she's trying to red mist on top of. Super strong and very effective.
Ooh, look at this. Truth still going aggressive here. And this is just another Churnwalker ultimate that's going to land a kill. Churn will actually pick that up. The minions will now draw aggro from the turret, and there should be another tier 2 turret take. In the meantime, Sam and Status are going to get their first turret of the game in that top side of the map, but they've bled so much for it across the rest of the map that it's really not one of those things that you can call worth for.
I definitely agree. I think that they might even look for the tier 2, but that really opens up the map for Nova to just go on a Ghost Wing. And with Black Claw online right now, that's probably not a trade that, you know, you're going to be happy about. Like, sure, you got the gold, but giving up the Ghost Wing buff with Black Claw online, that's going to give Nova a huge advantage, and they are now in a great position to just be able to flex, you know, the almost 7k gold lead that they've amounted at this point. But, you know, Truth on this Vox, he's not playing with his team too much. He's split here a little bit. It's one-on-one against the Reza, but the rest of the team on the other side of the map, I don't know if necessarily that's the right decision, if you will. I think that Vox is so good in these team fights because he is so mobile that he can have a much larger impact. But maybe after he picks up his weapon buff, he'll rotate up in that direction, and especially now that Nova have secured the Black Claw, this is the time to group. We'll have to wait and see what he decides to do.
Looks like he wants to continue pressure in the side lane. Now, I usually would warn away from this when you have a Black Claw up and available. Actually, that's a lie. He's now going to head towards the mid lane. But I think with Truth being so strong, like, he can 1v2. So even if resources are pulled towards him, he's still going to get pressure in that side lane. The minions are actually doing it for him, so that's why he's going to join up here. And it's going to be an all-or-nothing fight, I think, for Liberation X at this point. They have to kind of all in and get that burst damage onto starting and onto Truth.
Absolutely. They're going to start sieging down this turret. It's gone down. Trespass into the base.
Oh, but this is too much, I think, for Liberation X. The damage is just piling up right now. Truth literally frontlining as Vox, face tanking Arona, and gives absolutely no damns about it. Marto's now going to be on the list. That's Finn for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it is going to be the Vein Crystal taking a beating. This should be the first game going over to Nova.
Definitely a win that Nova can be very happy about. Liberation X, hey, for not having competed in a 5v5, putting 6 kills on the board, definitely respectable. Certainly many holes and area for improvement. Drafting, definitely you need to set the tone from the get-go that you at least have a strategy or a plan. I don't think Rona's a part of that. I'd really like to see Status on something else. Someone with a little bit higher skill cap, being one of the more experienced and mechanically skilled players on his team that he could really use to his biggest advantage.
Yeah, we'll see what the desk have to say about that as we throw back over to them.
Nova Esports managing to push that one to a victory in the end, but it has to be said, at the very start of the game, Liberation X were taking it to them. They were trading 1 for 1. They were going very even. Then there was a point, I think it was about 5 minutes into the game, where Nova just flicked a switch, and from that point on, Liberation X could do nothing.
It was about the rotations. Liberation X's rotations and answering the ones that were coming out from, or more specifically, I should say, answering the rotations coming out from Nova were just not on point. There were multiple times where we saw one person from Liberation X defending a turret, and then 2 to 3, 4 members of Nova all of a sudden being at that turret, picking up the kill and then taking the objective, and then the rest of Liberation X was rotating over to try and help prevent that push from going too much further. And it was just being late really on those rotations and not getting there in time to answer the movements that Nova was making.
Yeah, absolutely. I really liked the Grumjaw play we saw coming out from Nova as well. The ultimates being used to stop Rona building breaking point stacks. And if you can shut Rona down early in the fight, she can't really have much impact. She's all about the breaking point, stacking up and then destroying a team. But because she got eaten so early, she wasn't able to do that, and it meant that Nova could take those fights convincingly. Here's where we are in our Razor Phone bracket right now. We're in Group B. Vegetable Juice have already moved on into their quarterfinals. You can see we are there in Nova Esports versus Liberation X. And we'll see whether LibX are going to be able to even things up in this series, or whether this is going to be all about Nova Esports. And when we talk about Liberation X, we have to talk about what happened in week number 1 in our Rockstar Rewind.
Yeah, Liberation X, there was a lot of question marks of, is this team going to be able to do anything in the VPL Summer Open? And obviously, a lot of people wanted to see them get through the play-in stage and get to the round of 16, but no one was really sure if they were going to be able to shake off the rust, because it had been a while since this team had been together, but they were able to do so, and they did it pretty convincingly in their matchup in the play-in stage. But now, again, you win the play-in stage, and your prize is having to go up against one of the top 3 teams in all of America, and that's a tough task.
Yeah, it definitely is. This is a difficult match for Liberation X. But before we jump into game number 2, let me just quickly remind you guys at home of the format we have here, brought to you by Poker Go. This is a 5-week tournament, and it is single elimination, which means if you lose your best of 3, you are going to be knocked out of the tournament. So this is definitely a brutal fight for the title of the best team in either Europe or North America.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it's all about. And not only that title, but also you can see the Dollar Shave Club prize pool, $5,000 per region up for grabs in the Summer Open.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot on the line here for these guys. And Nova, definitely one of the forerunners, one of the favorites to try and fight for that first place $3,000 prize pool. It's about time that we start to pivot towards what's going to be happening in this game, because Liberation X, we saw them in the preseason, we saw them in week 1, sorry. They can look incredibly strong. What do you want to see from them in game number 2 here to see a bit of a better result than what we saw against Nova?
Honestly, I don't think there's an issue with the draft. I think the draft was a perfectly acceptable draft. Obviously, some people are going to look at that Rona pick and be like, oh, well, is that the right pick here? But
I mean, he got a solo kill under turret at like 2 minutes.
I mean, I think the Rona pick, I don't think the Rona pick was an issue. I think there is a place for Rona if you are able to work around it right, or if you are able to prevent yourself from getting eaten by a Grumpjaw. But it really just came down to the rotations in game and their ability to keep up with Nova. It just felt like Nova was just moving at just a little bit faster pace than what Liberation X was ready for.
Now, interestingly, Liberation X have banned Truth's Vox away. Truth was doing wonders on that Vox, especially when it came to the fights, but also in terms of farm, he was 20 CS up on anyone else in the game. He was absolutely loaded, so once it came to those team fights, he already had so much damage, he was able to tear people apart. So usually, Vox ban I wouldn't be a fan of, but with how well it did in game number 1, I can kind of understand.
The only issue with banning away the Vox there and the way that the strategy played out is you gave over the Grumpjaw again. And again, we've seen this Grumpjaw now be incredibly effective. We saw it basically take apart the win condition that Liberation X had in game number 1. So obviously this time around, maybe either expecting to be able to block the stuffed ultimates or just not having any one target that is going to be easy enough to grab for this Grumpjaw. So obviously you don't let it through twice if you know, or if you don't have a way that you feel like you can deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. So incredibly good AoE so far from Liberation X. When you look at that composition, like Arden, Samuel, and Baron, if you can get a good gauntlet going, there is a huge amount of cleave that's going to happen inside that little area. I'd love to see them go with the Rona again, stick to their guns with that, because it fits the composition beautifully, and then maybe something like a Churnwalker to round it out. That could
Churnwalker's already.
Oh, Churnwalker's already picked. But yeah, continue to stick with that theme, look for the 5v5 team fights, have a solid win condition, and just push for that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously having that strong win condition base for your team that you can look for is just, it makes winning the game that much easier, because you're now no longer trying to figure out, okay, how do we win this? It's just how do we set up what we need to do to win? Because you already know how you win a fight. We're going to grab the Catherine. That's, again, can be used for that AoE with the damage getting spread from the Stormguard bubble. And then, of course, the Blast Tremor can just set up fights so incredibly well. And then a Kestrel coming out as the final pick. That one is a bit different from the rest of their composition, but it's still a lot of damage that's coming out of this team.
Yeah, absolutely. But they, you know, with a Catherine and on, they have a good amount of appeal as well. So this is a composition from LivX that I could see doing very well. But again, you fall behind, you're really going to struggle. Nova, on the other hand, a little bit less damage loaded on their squad. I'd expect that Adagio probably going to end up going as a carry rather than a captain, because otherwise they might be struggling French with that.
I don't know. I mean, most of the times when we've been seeing the Adagios, it's been in that more captain role. I mean, we've seen teams run triple captain and still have enough damage. So I feel like this will be a little bit more towards the captain-oriented side, because you've got the Tony, you've got the Churnwalker as well.
I think it's going to be CP Adagio, dude.
I don't think it's going to be CP Adagio. I think they want to get more of that health, more of that, more of the activatables to deal with things like the Samuel, like the Kestrel and the Baron, because you need to have that tankier lineup to deal with a Baron, Samuel, Kestrel.
I think they just won't have the damage if they don't go for some kind of carry Adagio. We'll have to see what they are going to go for. That's the beauty of Vainglory. There are plenty of options available. And it's about time we jump into game number 2 between these two teams, though. Nova versus Liberation X. Let's see if LibX have got what it takes to stay in the VPL, or whether Nova are going to walk on forward into the quarterfinals.
All right.
Oh, sorry, buddy.
You waited, so I was like, all right, I guess I'm taking it over. That's okay. Game number 2, Nova versus LibX.
My brain was a bit slow. I kind of registered it very quickly, and then I was like, oh no, it's all good, I'm good. Anyway, we are into this game 2 right now, and look, Flash, they changed things up. They've definitely changed things up, and status on his CP Kestrel is definitely something that when it was 3v3 meta, people would fear in some instances. So what do you make of this?
Yeah, CP Kestrel, definitely another one of Status's signature heroes. Unfortunately, Kestrel, another one of the heroes that really, in my opinion, struggles in this meta. I expect him to have a very impactful early game, but with how tanky the meta is right now, I'm really concerned that Nova is just going to be able to ignore the splash damage and go straight onto Kestrel in the backlines. I mean, you have Maline, Grumpjaw. They have abilities that can just close the gap, get straight on to Kestrel, and make it really hard for her to be successful.
I think also looking at this, and I think from Liberation X, what I've seen from them for the most part, they love their comfort heroes. Like, it's just heroes that they like playing and they think they're good at, without kind of putting too much pressure on the meta itself. Sam now in the back line. He's, I think he's dead. Pretty much. Delphi's going to be able to slow him down with the Grumpjaw here. And also you can see Truth playing that. Adagio will pick up the first blood here, and unfortunately Sam got hot behind enemy lines. But yeah, bringing that back, it just, you know, these guys are comfort hero players. They've got their comfort heroes. Might not work in the 5v5 meta per se, but for them, they've been able to pick up wins just by playing the stuff they like.
For sure, yeah. Sam 916, a newer face to the Vainglory scene. It might be a name change. I'm not too familiar with who that is. Sam on the Baron, I'm pretty sure is the Sam that we know and remember from Liberation back in the golden days. But someone forgot to tell him that that jungle is not his own and not to be that far into enemy territory. Some posturing around this mid lane. Status does have that weapon power buff, which does synergize really well with Kestrel. Maline, though, so much burst damage.
Ah, yes, Maline. Very, very powerful hero. Been hard to balance in Vainglory, realistically, because she just kind of does a bit of everything. And starting, you could see the damage he was able to output with just a little combo at level 3. Status is going to get caught up here. Has to be super careful. So does Starting, though. So he takes a chunk of damage. Still does have his flask, so he's not going to be too worried about this situation. And Eco now going to be trying to be that front line. And Starting, they are actually not in a great position to contest this crystal tree. And Status very, very low, forced the boots out. And now this could actually be in favor of Nova, as Edial has to back out too. That's a lot of chunk damage coming down, though. This is the point in the game where CP Kestrel will get work done against anybody. And starting has to be super careful.
Yeah, I mean, those glimmer shots coming out, certainly putting on a lot of damage. If those were squishy heroes, if the meta was different, maybe it would be effective. But Tony, Churnwalker, too tanky for Kestrel to really be able to capitalize on it. Status barely getting away with a sliver of health. He does win that trade, though, because he is able to steal away some of the jungle camps. Delphi on this Grump Shot in a bit of trouble. He needs to find the A to get away. But the stun from Catherine going to be too much.
Oh, maybe, though. He did just leave his boots at the very last moment. I think... Has Truth got a heal for him? Truth might have a heal for him. I think Truth used his own heal. And now Delphi stuck in no man's land. Truth trying to back off and get down to the side lanes and deal with Marto. But that is going to be Delphi escaping on the Grumpjaw. Maleen will pick up the kill onto Status on this Kestrel. And now it is up to Truth to try and kite around Sam and Marto, who are in this jungle. Churnwalker is going to come for some support. A nice dodge by Marto there on the side lanes. Sam actually going to get rooted up. And the basic attack's not doing too much damage from Truth at this point in time. So he's happy to try and tank that through that Storm Guard. And that is going to be Eco and Truth picking up yet another kill on that top side of the map.
Weapon Adagio coming out for Truth. Another pick here in this series that not really part of the traditional meta in 3.6. Truth, though, certainly having a very, very strong weapon power Adagio back when it was in the meta. So I fully expect him to be very effective. But it's going to be really interesting to see. I think Baron in the 1v1 situation certainly going to be able to outtrade him. But with all the heals coming out, it does look like he picks up the Poison Shift as his first item. Going to be really interesting to see how that works out for him.
Double kill coming out for Status here on the bot side of the map. That's a big pickup for him. That's going to allow him to accelerate that build just a little bit more. Very close to picking up what I assume is going to be a Shatterglass to begin with, because you don't really go Spellfire and CP Kestrel since the changes. I think the Weapon Tower Adagio, that's a very NA pick. Like, that's super North America in terms of meta. Europe almost never plays Weapon Power Adagio, even in competitive. And what it will do is it will spike a lot earlier in the game. So this is, I guess, a mid-game focused game plan coming out from Nova.
Eco getting them all chained up. That's exactly what he needs to do in these team fights. But he's not that tanky early on, and team not putting out enough damage in order to keep him healed and keep him alive.
Yeah, they walked straight through that trap from Status, and he set that up super nicely. This is a good start from Liberation X. Nova actually on the back foot. Maybe Lib can mount a little bit of an attack here. Delphi on the top side of the map, you can see they are so close to taking that tier 1 turret. I think that's going to give that over to Truth, and he gets that last hit onto it as well. So the first turret of the game does go over to Nova, and now they'll begin to rotate around the map, and especially now that Ghostwing has spawned, that should be a target for them.
They can definitely be happy about taking down that first turret, getting them a little bit of momentum. They have a little bit of a gold lead. Not Next needs to be too worried about, but Eddie All super low down in the bot lane. Stam looking to pick up the kill with the Baron, not going to be able to find it, and now Liberation in a bit of trouble.
Yeah, they overextended, I think, their flash. I was just keeping an eye on Baron. Ediel managed to bait him in, and now Sam has to deal with Delphi. Nice jump over. Ediel does get the shield, which keeps him alive. Sam, oh, that last-minute ultimate from Delphi immediately spits him out. The ultimate is not going to get the kill onto Ediel, who backs off nicely. What a clutch ultimate from Delphi to keep his team alive.
So clutch. Definitely Delphi demonstrating why he is one of the best junglers in North America right now, being able to save Ediel's life on that Tony. Nova definitely showing why they are one of the best teams in North America right now, being able to press these leads and advantages in their favor as they start to pressure this mid lane turret.
Yeah, and they are going to continue to siege onto that, starting now level 6 as well. Actually, a level behind this Samuel. D1 has had a pretty solid game so far at 0-0-2. Not only got any kills, but in general not feeding as hard as he was in the previous game, and starting has got to deal with that level disadvantage. Eco takes the damage once more to the face. The one shot, one kill. Going to have to dodge out, but that's not going to be enough, and he's going to go down. Gauntlet a little bit overkill, in my opinion, but gets the job done, and that's going to be a kill onto Eco. They just need to convert it into something now, and I'm wondering if that's going to be Ghostwing.
Yeah, there's definitely room for them to do so. Nova definitely in position to be able to contest. And like you said, Demon did have a relatively, good early game. He didn't give up any kills, but he needs to become involved in these engagements. Samuel is just too strong for him to not be involved in these early game team fights, because as Nova begins to ramp up in terms of their defense, his effectiveness is going to become less and less. And now Marto in this bot lane, unfortunately, going to be falling.
That is a CP buff that is there for starting to take, and he will. They have to be a little bit careful, though, because Sam has now got his Serpent's Mask online, so that's going to start to chunk pretty hard. Other Sam on the Catherine is there, and Ediel is going to back off now, has to use that flask. The ultimate comes through as well. They're trying to make use of this. Starting gets a fountain. Oh, that's a big engage. They did not expect the fountain. Sam got baited in by it, and that's a massive turnaround for Nova. Demon pops a very, very early flask here. I don't know if it's going to save him. Oh, very close. Just about going down to the Churnwalker damage over time from those chains. Status not there in time. And Truth now able to free farm on the top side of the map.
Phenomenal bait by the side of Nova, and even better fountain coming out of Eco to keep his allies alive. And this is what I was talking about. Nova is just so tanky that these heroes like CP Kestrel are really, really struggling to, have the same impact. Sure, Status has 4 kills on the board, but the longer this game goes, the more it progresses, the more his damage is going to fall off as all of these heroes become tankier and tankier. Status gonna try and put some more damage onto this bot lane turret, but with Eco and Ediel there, he's in a bit of trouble, but Sam on the Baron gonna be able to bail him out of it.
Indeed, and the one thing that doesn't concern me, but I will always want to keep my eye on, is that Truth is now sat on this top side of the map. A lot of action going down the bottom side, and he is one of those mid-game weapon power carries. Now, there is 2 schools of thought about what he's doing. He looks like he's just hard farming to hit item spikes and then come into the game around, 12, 13 minutes and start chunking people left, right, and center. I mean, he is about an item and a bit up over Sam at this point in time. And he is going now for the armory turret. They're trying to buy time. What a big engage by Delphi. A huge amount of damage coming out from his A. Eco on the backline trying to soak the damage up. A brilliant ultimate will stun up pretty much everybody from Liberation X. Starting comes through. He's starting to rip them to shreds on this Malign. 4 versus 5, and they can't even deal with Nova as Sam goes down to a double kill. Starting's going to pick that up, and like I said in the meantime, that is just Truth taking a turret and now even an armory on the top side of the map.
Yeah, Truth, not a player that you want to leave uncontested, because he is someone that is going to punish you for it. Not only is he building a massive, massive gold advantage in terms of his last hits, he's building a huge XP advantage too. And when he does get involved, when he does get into these team fights, he's going to be a menace. Now, whether he did this intentionally or not, it's hard to say, but I think that Truth feels like it was so early on into the game, he did not want to fully take the armory because it will have denied him farm, because his wave would have just continually pushed. I think he wanted to still continue be able to farm, and his team getting into a little bit of a skirmish in this bottom side jungle. It'll be interesting when he decides to pull the trigger and start getting himself involved.
They're going for Blacklaw now. That tactic of denying the armory is a little bit similar to something that Leon taught me in Europe. He plays a don't take the turret when he plays bot lane weapon power carries. He doesn't take bot lane turret at all until he absolutely has to, because he just likes to keep forcing the enemy carry down there to defend it. He also likes to make sure that the waves don't push in consistently and he doesn't have to overextend to get the waves. So he just likes to be able to farm and hyper farm and get experience advantages over his opponents by not taking that first tier turret. And I guess in a similar vein, is maybe just to a greater extent, is what Truth is doing here. He does not want to have to constantly basically push all the way to the enemy base to get the farm, although he could just swap lanes if he wanted to. He could just go bot lane.
Yeah, for sure. And it's hard to say. Maybe he was confident and he thought that the minions were...
Oh!
Huge snipe by Status, being able to pick up starting before this fight starts. Nova, though, very familiar with playing in 4v5. I don't know if that's going to phase them at all.
No, Delphi now doing a lot of damage. Eco actually gets out of the fight with his ultimate. Delphi has to spit out Sam right in front of the Adagio, does manage to escape too. And actually something that we haven't said is just how far ahead Truth is in terms of damage right now. Huge damage coming out from Status. He picks up another one with a well-placed trap. Another ultimate coming through onto Ediel. And I think Truth is going to go down here. Status doing some work on this CP Kestrel, but it just doesn't feel like it's enough, like you said. Starting now back in the fight. He is looking to do work, put pain down onto Liberation X, and with the Black Claw still pushing in, they're probably going to get 2 armories out of this at the very least.
At the very least, I think that they are in a pretty decent position to be able to end. You see Tony picking up the boots. He's going to be coming back into this mix very, very soon. But is it going to be soon enough?
I don't think so. I think this is probably going to have to be a small disengage, although saying that teleports boots left, right, and center. Everybody going for teleport boots as Eco comes in as well. Starting still there. No one dealing with Blacklaw. You could be right here. They could just be going strictly for an end here at 14 minutes. It is 3 versus 5 in this scenario. None of them are interested in taking the fight. They all want to end the game. The Vein Crystal's going to go down. And Truth and Nova take a 2-0 win over Liberation X.
Phenomenal game knowledge by the side of Nova. They understood how healthy Blacklaw still was. They understood that they still had 2 armories down. That enables them to go straight on the Vein Crystal and allows them to take a clean 2-0 over Liberation X.
Well, Liberation X can hold their heads high. They are still the buffest team in Vainglory. They can hold that title. Let's hand it back over to the analyst desk, and they'll break down what was our last game of the Vainglory North America scene.
What a way to do it. Nova are going to take it in the end, and I don't want to say that I'm some kind of prophet, but I called it was going to be an Adagio carry. Truth takes it.
You called it Crystal Adagio
I did call it
carry.
Crystal, and that was very stupid of me. I agree. But I did call it was a carry, and he dominated his lane.
I mean, he really did, and really Nova just kind of dominated this game. Liberation X just did not have the decision-making that you need to have to be one of these top teams. They weren't as decisive when it came to pulling the trigger on going for plays. There was one that stood out to me really heavily in the bottom lane where Edial was defending a turret by himself with like less than a quarter health. They had a man advantage there. They didn't pull the trigger on going for that dive, get the kill, then clear out of the turret range and take the turret. Instead, they waited for a third member to come down before trying to make that play. And by the time they waited for that third member to come down, it allowed Nova the time to get themselves in a position to counter that play, which they ended up doing. So it's just little things
I feel like that is the story of this entire series as well. It was just Nova reading everything Liberation X tried to do and just outplaying it at the end of the day. So Nova are going to move on with our bracket. I do just want to give a quick shout out to Scoundrel and FlashX for their excellent casting today. We'll be seeing them again tomorrow, so thank you for joining us, gents. But let's take a look at where we are in the tournament off the back of this series. We can have a look at our Razer phone bracket because Nova Esports are now going to be moving forward into our bracket. But this is going to be Group D, which will be happening tomorrow. So we're going to have Vision Gaming coming on it. I think Vision definitely the team to watch in Group D right now.
Oh, absolutely. That's Vision Gaming's bracket to win. They're the ones that are the clear-cut favorites coming out of Group D. Now we're going to get a look at the Group B bracket. And like you mentioned, Nova and the side of Vegetable Juice moving on to face off next week in the quarterfinals.
Yeah, absolutely. And both of them having fantastic series here today. Vegetable Juice especially had a phenomenal comeback in their second game. Well deserving of that place in the quarterfinals. Nova definitely going to be a tough opponent for them. Group D is now the last remaining quadrant we have. That's going to be coming at you guys tomorrow. But we have 6 of our 8 quarterfinalists decided now. Before we talk about tomorrow's matchups though, let's have a quick word from our sponsor. Now we can take a look a bit closer at Group D, the last remaining quadrant of our North American bracket here. We have Vision Gaming against Witch Doctor and Dorea versus Genis. Now, I think it's fair to say Vision Gaming are the standout favorite in this segment of the bracket. Witch Doctor, one of our playing teams. I don't want to sugarcoat it, they are going to have a hard time tomorrow against the likes of Vision. But Dorea versus Genis, that matchup I think it reminds me of Vegetable Juice's Polar Race from today, in that there is a lot of unknown players on either roster, and we could have some serious standouts coming kind of out of the woodwork. We could have some new stars starting to show themselves.
Not only that, but there is also a couple of familiar names in there. You know, Gatsby playing on Jenners. That's a name that's been around at the top level of Vainglory. Some excellent name synergy going on the side of Duraya that you'll get to see tomorrow, but you'll have to tune in to see what I'm talking about if you don't already know.
A rat, that's all I'm gonna say.
It's pretty excellent, I gotta say. Probably my favorite individual player names scheme, I guess, in the...
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. There's also the Baby Groots, but they're not actually in the VPL anymore. So I guess they're out of
because they broke up the band.
They did break up the band. It was a rookie mistake. But that's going to be it from us for today. Thank you so much for joining us here at the VPL. We'll be back tomorrow morning, same time, same place for our European games, and then our North Americans to decide who will be in our quarterfinals. Until then, we'll say goodnight and see you tomorrow.